Alright, first video from my new apartment. I got the shitty orange walls, pink hoodie, potato head. I even got a pimple on my face. It's just like the old times. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience with Copic Markers, and I'm going to show you my process for drawing a stylized figure. And I know what you're thinking. Wow, Angel, new apartment and Copic Markers? What are you, fucking rich? I am. I still can't afford a couch though. And to be honest, the title is a little bit of a clickbait because this is probably my 6th time doing a drawing with Copic Markers. But if I was to write that, nobody would click on it. But if you think about it, this is my first time recording myself drawing with Copic Markers. So is it really a clickbait? It probably is. And before I show you the process and all that, you know I have to do some complaining. First of all, who the fuck uses this side of the marker? What are you, a fucking accountant? Who's gonna use a $10 marker to underline some text? I swear, every time I open a marker and it's this side, I'm like, not you again, bitch. Second of all, I wish they could release like some sort of a guide on which markers to buy. Like you can't just release 200 awesome colors and be like, good luck with finding which ones you need. I swear I had like $100 budget and I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy 10 markers max. And then I ended up with all this. That's actually a pretty good business model. Okay, now let me show you which colors I bought and my technique for coloring. First of all, I created this sheet with all the different swatches of all the colors that I have. And listen, I've created countless paintings and characters and portraits, but I've never been as proud with any of them as I am with this shit. I know it just looks like some colored squares, but when I was done with it, I was like, bro, I'm fucking Picasso now. You can see I decided to invest a lot more in pastel colors, and because I knew I was gonna draw a lot of skin, there's like a lot of pinks and oranges. And you can also see I fucking light pink and orange. And because I didn't even know what colors to buy, what I'll do is I'll watch some artists on YouTube using markers, I'll pause the video, zoom in, and write down the number of the marker. I know, fucking genius. And now I don't even use half of them. And by the way, shout out to all the people on Instagram who told me that you're supposed to store alcoholic markers horizontally because they're gonna like bleed or whatever the fuck. Because my Eastern European brain was just thinking of putting them in my grandma jars. And what I recommend to you if you're buying markers is to get like different hues and get like a lighter and a darker version of the same color so you can use them for blending. And when it comes to skin, I found it kind of useful to have two type of versions. One which is gonna be more like pinkish, like this and this and that. And then one which is gonna be more yellow, which is gonna be this and this and this. So that way you can really get the full spectrum of the skin tones. I'm not a big fan of greens and yellows, and I know I'm gonna get some hate for this, but green fucking sucks. It looks good on Billie Eilish's head, but when it comes to drawing, it just ends up looking like baby puke. If I was to buy this all over again, I'll definitely invest into more purples, because right now I have only one. And I'd recommend to you, instead of using the normal blues, to use the BVs. Blowing faces or whatever the fuck that is. I feel like it's much more compatible with skin tones, because if you have too many different hues, it's just gonna end up looking like a kindergarten drawing. I think you have to stick to closely related colors, or what they call monogamous colors. So these are all the different drawings that I've done with Copics up until now, and even though I said I hate fucking green, I think this one is my favorite just because of how the hair turned out. But you know, she also has some sexy ass fishnets, so it's kind of hard to exactly tell the reason. I like to blend out the hair and kind of fade it out into a lighter color, something that I totally didn't see from Ladowska. And the way that I blend is I'll get 3 different markers and I'll always start out with the lightest, just getting in the color. Then I establish the shadows with the darker color, and then I go back with that fucking side, and I go back with the first to really get the blending. And you already have like a really nice gradient, and then I'll go back with the third to really get the darkest shadows. And as a rule of thumb, I would always use the lighter marker to blend the colors. It gets it kind of dirty, but you know what they say, better dirty than sorry. Actually, nobody says that. Alright, that's how you get a really nice period spot. And I'd actually recommend you to change the hue as you change the color. So I'll start out with this pink, then get a darker pink, and then for the darkest color, I would actually go purple. That way your color transitions actually get more vivid as they get darker. It's not just fucking dull and boring. And same for the green. Don't just add light green and then dark green, but add some fucking this side, man. Add some blue and then actually add some BG. Bulgarian color. Alright, this doesn't really look like the best tutorial ever. For the paper, I use some random ass marker pad, but just make sure that you don't use normal paper because then your colors won't blend as well. This one is pretty good, but really the only reason why I bought it is because of the slogan. Probably the best paper for all alcoholic based markers. I like that there's some sort of uncertainty there. Probably the best paper, but we don't know. Okay, now for the stylized figure, I start out with a pencil sketch. And I know that the way that I hold the pencil looks weird, but that's how you hold it for the lay-in. You need to use your whole arm, not just the wrist. You're not fucking writing in a textbook. I start out with just figuring out the basic lines and proportions, and boy, do people on Instagram get angry at me for fucking making women's waist smaller. You have to realize that I'm not exactly drawing the reference. Like, I'm using a reference because I don't know how to fucking draw. And by the way, I love the fact that people are okay with me making eyes bigger, but they're not okay with me making waist smaller. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So you can make things bigger, but you can't make them smaller? Is that how it works? Because there's definitely certain parts of my body that I need to get bigger. After I'm done with the pencil sketch, I fade it out with a kneaded eraser and I start inking. For the ink, I use Copic Multiliner 0.1 and 0.05. Wow, I thought my dick was small. But it's really important to not add too much ink before the colors because the markers are gonna smudge it. So in this stage, I use only the 0.05 and I do only the outline. So no line weight or none of that pretty shit. This is how the sketch looks after I'm done with the inking. And this is my least favorite part of the whole process because it's just nerve-wracking and I'm always like, don't fucking ruin this. These are all the colors that I'm gonna be using for the drawing. And I was first thinking of doing her hair like a bluish green color, but then I thought that red is gonna look better for the bluish jeans. So 4 different colors for the skin, 2 different colors for the jeans, and 2 different colors for the top. And it's always better if you can use one marker in multiple places, because if you just keep inviting new colors, you're just gonna have a mud party. I start out with filling out all of the skin parts with the lightest skin color that I have, aka R000, whatever the fuck that means. Then I fill out the jeans with the BV02. It sounds like I'm announcing some prisoners out here. And it's really important when you're filling out the areas with the markers to really be thinking about the planes of whatever you're drawing. You thought I was gonna do an art video where I don't talk about all this structure shit? You're wrong, bitch. A lot of you is gonna get inspired from this goofy video. You're gonna buy some fucking markers. You're gonna try to follow my process and you're gonna fail miserably. And that's because you don't understand any structure. You don't know how to shade and you think that some goofy markers is gonna solve that. Well, Angel, why are you doing this video if it's not gonna be useful? Well, I'm not really sure either. Then I start laying out the hair with some red, and it's really important to have all of the colors of the drawing before you start doing any form of shading, because you can't even judge the shadow value unless you have the bigger picture. All these fucking time-lapse videos on Instagram of people doing details on the eyes before they even have the color on the hair. Yeah, you're complete fucking morons. Then I start establishing the shadows for the skin, and I'm not worried about making it all smooth and shit, but I'm just trying to separate the shadows from the lights. She ends up looking like a redneck with a bad sunburn. Then I get the darker color again, and I fill out the whole skin. And it kind of looks like all these shadows and forms disappeared, but they're actually still there. They're just a lot more subtle. And really the secret to painting with markers, not that I have that much experience, but really the secret to painting with anything is just layering. Like, you can't expect that you're gonna do one layer of a color and it's gonna look phenomenal. It's gonna look faded and washed out and flat. You have to keep going on top, doing another layer and really reiterating these planes over and over again so you can really get some form and some subtle texture. But again, the problem is that most of you don't understand the structure, so even if you do more layers, it's still not gonna look pretty. Do I really need to tell you any more times that your structure sucks? Probably. Then I do the same for the shirt and the jeans. Shadow layer, then blending, then another shadow layer, and then more blending. And when I finally have all of these shadows and basic forms established, I start doing some details and adding different hues. This is where I start doing some cross hatching, so you can really tell that the texture of the skin is gonna be different than the texture of the jeans. But this was supposed to be a reaction video, not a tutorial, so don't dare learn anything. Finally, I get the 0.1 multi-liner and I go on top and I start adding the actual lines. I'm gonna be doing a whole separate tutorial about line weight, but basically I just go over all of the lines and I make them thick. You have to be thinking about which parts are gonna catch more shadows and actually go and add some weight to the lines, not just make them look like an outline. And this is the final result. There's a couple of places where there's coloring outside of the lines, but I'm too fucking ADD to always color in the lines. But after some fixing and color grading in Photoshop, we have the final, which is gonna get a lot of likes on Instagram. But anyway, I hope that shit was helpful to anybody using some markers. You know, I didn't even talk about their amazing ability to hit your prostate, but I'm gonna show you that next time. And by the way, thank you to everybody who said that they were really happy and proud of me for moving out. You know, you were really nice. Matter of fact, you were too fucking nice. Can you go back to roasting me and writing mediocre comments? I swear, if I only catch somebody being sensitive out there,